Hey guys, happy Wednesday. Hope you're doing well. We are going to do a lesson today on making inferences from informational text. Um, this is RI.5.1. Quote accurately from a text when explaining what the text says explicitly and when drawing inferences from the text. So this is review. You should know these words, but let's go over them. Explicit means it is stated directly in the text, so it is what the author says. If you have to make an inference, you use evidence from the text and your schema to come up with a conclusion. And remember what that word schema means. That's your background information. Okay, it's what you already know. And then a quote is to repeat or copy a group of words from the text. Okay, so if you want to quote something explicitly from the text, you would just copy what the author said and make sure you give credit to the author. Okay, we are going to continue with our B book, Bees Matter, that we were reading. Let's see, I want to make it big. All right, so this is chapter 2. We've read a little bit about how the bees are, we talked about how I caught the swarm in my backyard. Well, Mr. Wilson caught it. I just showed him where it was. And we talked about how the bees are dying and how that's not good for our ecosystem. So let's figure out why. Okay, chapter 2, A Different World. Within only a few decades, much has changed for bees. In the 1940s, farmers made up approximately 20% of the U.S. workforce. By 1990, the number of farmers had dropped to 2.6%. Over the same period, the total number of farms dropped from 6 million to 2.5 million. Wow, that's a big drop. So the total number of farms dropped from 6 million to 2.5 million, over half. So what can you infer about the population of bees if the number of farms dropped by over half? What inference can you make from that? Yeah, you can infer that the bees do not have as much of what they need, so that's partly why they're dying. Meanwhile, the number of people in the United States went up. The population is now more than 318 million, compared to 132 million in the 1940s. With many more people to feed, the average farm size has nearly tripled. A changing world. The farming change that took place in the 1940s was called the Green Revolution. During this time, monocrop farms became more common. Let's look at that word monocrop. Do you remember what the prefix mono means? It means one. So monocrop means one crop. Instead of a farm having many different crops, they just had a lot of one crop. Instead of growing many types of crops, farmers began to grow only one crop on their farms. This allowed farmers to specialize in one type of crop. Monocrop farms had higher yields. This helped feed the growing population. A yield is how much food they can get from it. Today, monocrop farms are even more common. Approximately half of the farm fields in the United States grow only corn or soybeans. Farmers also use more chemicals to protect their crops from weeds, diseases, and pests. Crop yields are high as a result, and the streamlined process allows foods to be sold at a lower cost. However, these practices have also changed the farm landscape. I'm going to go back and read this perspectives box right here. Crop-saving chemicals. In 1940, each U.S. farmer fed an average of 19 people. With more people and fewer farms, the average is now higher than 140 people. Farmers lose approximately 20 to 40% of their crops to pests and disease. Chemicals help protect crops but often hurt other living things, including bees. Alternatives to harmful chemicals exist. but most are costly and less reliable. People around the world depend on crops grown in the United States. In 2012, the United States was the third largest producer of vegetables worldwide. Farmers must be able to grow high yields at low costs to meet demand. Okay, after reading that in this section right here, what can you infer about the higher use of pesticides on crops when it comes to bees? Think about that for a second. What can you infer about the higher use of pesticides on crops when it comes to bees? What do you think? I'm thinking that if more pesticides are being used on crops, then it's probably killing some of our bees or hurting them. Let's keep reading and find out. I'm also going to read this corn in our cars box. In 2013, U.S. farmers planted 97.4 million acres of corn. Much of that corn was never eaten. 40% of U.S. cornfields are used to make ethanol. Ethanol is added to gasoline to help it burn cleaner. Farmers grow huge fields of corn to meet demand. Bees cannot survive feeding only on corn plants. As different types of fuels are developed, the need for ethanol may go down. This could allow farmers to plant more types of crops. A bee's perspective. Honeybees need variety in their diet. They prefer to get most of their food within 2.5 miles of the hive. In the past, finding the needed nutrition was easy. Farms had plenty of wild growth and types of crops. With monocrop farming, hundreds of acres may grow a single crop. Bees struggle to get the nutrients they need. There are not other food sources nearby when the single crop is done flowering. Pesticides are also a problem for bees. Farmers use pesticides to protect their crops from harmful insects, but the chemicals can also kill bees. Levels of toxins that do not kill bees can still destroy colonies. The chemicals can change the way bees act. In 2014, scientists studied a pesticide's effect on bumblebees. The chemicals did not kill bees right away. Instead, their growth slowed. Many could no longer find their way back to the hive. Without enough food, entire hives broke down. Let's relook at that section. So find a quote from this paragraph that proves the inference that we made over on the page before. So look at this paragraph. We're trying to remember the inference we made was that the bees are probably hurt or are dying from the use of pesticides in on farms. So we've got lots of quotes right here. The author states, but the chemicals can also kill bees. Levels of toxins that do not kill bees can still destroy colonies. The chemicals can change the way the bees act. Then it talks about how the chemical didn't always kill the bees right away, but their growth slowed and they couldn't find their way back to the hive. And then the hives were dying because they didn't have enough food. So the author we used explicit evidence here to prove what we inferred before we got to that point. Good job. Natural illness. A type of parasite adds to bees' challenges. The Varroa destructor mite quickly spread across the United States in the 1980s. The mite is no bigger than the tip of a pin, but it has become a huge problem for beekeepers. Varroa mites bite bees, suck their blood, and spread disease. Varroa mites were likely shipped to the United States with honeybees from Brazil. The mites are an invasive species. Invasive species are organisms that are not naturally found in an area and that hurt the native organisms. Remember, native means that's where they originated, that's where they started. Illnesses are not new in the bee world. There are many other parasites and diseases that can affect a colony. Dysentery, chalk brood, bacterial diseases, and starvation can destroy hives. But American honeybees did not evolve with the threat of varroa mites. The bees do not have protection against these dangerous parasites. Many U.S. hives died before beekeepers understood the problem. Beekeepers must now regularly inspect their hives. The keepers must plan in advance how to fight the destructive mite. See that little mite right on the bee? It looks big here, but it's very, very small. Because think, that bee is probably not even, well, definitely not even as big as this picture. So it's a very, very small mite, just the size of the tip of a pin. Treatments are available for varroa mites, but fighting off illness can leave hives vulnerable to other stressors. The deadly combination. There are still mysteries surrounding what contributes most to hive failure. However, the picture is becoming clear. Many human-created factors affect bee health. A deadly combination of human practices is at the heart of the bee decline. These factors combine to put extra stress on bees. Better understanding the ways in which humans affect bees not only helps bees, but entire ecosystems. And that is the end of that chapter. So we're going to stop there. And so I heard a lot from you guys about how we can help the bees that are in our backyards. And I heard planting flowers. Yes, definitely. That will help the bees that are around. And somebody said to not use pesticides. We definitely learned today that that's a good one. Can you think of anything else? Those are some real good ones that you guys, I think, can do. But we'll keep reading tomorrow and see what else. Have a good day.